Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight for the third session of our Ovarian Cancer Wellness Symposium. This program is designed to help you make informed decisions with your medical team throughout your continuum of care, to give you tips and guidance in what questions to ask. And we really are very fortunate to have a wonderful oncology dietitian from Lenox Hill Northwell Health joining us this evening to share her expertise with us tonight. So I would like you all to give a very warm welcome to Ashlyn Ryan. So Ashlyn, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hi, everyone. I am excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm just excited to talk about the role that nutrition plays in cancer treatment and survivorship, because I know it's so important and I hope I can answer all of your questions. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And we'll get started. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Is that working okay? Okay, perfect. Okay, so I just sort of want to start with this picture. I think sometimes when thinking about nutrition, this is sort of the emotion we can all feel. It can be overwhelming, the amount of nutrition information that's out there, and knowing what you should or shouldn't eat. As soon as you get your diagnosis, something that you might do is sort of start Googling, and that can definitely have a lot of different answers and it can be conflicting. So the goal for this discussion is just to answer the questions that you have and provide knowledge so that you feel confident in the food choices that you make. And also, we're just going to talk about some tips that can be beneficial in managing side effects. That's a huge part. And at the end, we're going to make something yummy. So let's get started. Okay, so the World Cancer Research Fund, as well as the American Institute for Cancer Research, have done extensive research for what they should recommend to prevent cancer reoccurrence. And this can be important because when you finish your treatment, you might wonder what are some things that you can implement in your diet and throughout your lifestyle to prevent reoccurrence. So through the research, they've come out with these recommendations. So we're going to go through all of them and talk about them a little bit. So the first one is to achieve and maintain a healthy weight and be physically active. So the research shows that obesity is linked to certain cancers, and physical activity is definitely preventative. Now, the physical activity can be a spectrum. If you're having a day where you're feeling extremely fatigued, it can be going for a walk, it can be sitting and stretching. There's all different things that you can do to be physically active, and it's different for each person. The next recommendation is to eat a diet rich in whole grains, vegetables, fruit, and beans. So all of these foods are fiber-containing foods. So you definitely want to recommend for around 30 grams of fiber a day, and you want to have at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. That's a common question, is how much fruits and vegetables should I be having in a day? So 5 servings is the typical recommendation. Okay. The next recommendation that they put out is to limit consumption of red and processed meat. So red meat can have some benefits. It contains iron, it's a good source of protein, but you definitely want to reduce the amount of fat content in the red meat. And the recommendation is to have red meat no more than 3 times in a week. So it's something I enjoy as well. And so the recommendation is not to cut out completely, but just reduce the amount that you're having. And as much as possible, completely limit processed meat that's like salami, sausages, those types of things. You also want to, as much as possible, limit consumption of fast food and sugar sweetened beverages. This is the good stuff, but the research does show that as much as possible, you want to reduce things that are very high in fat and very sugary, like sodas, juices, those types of things. As much as possible, you also want to limit alcohol consumption. A common question I get is, does the type of alcohol matter? The answer is no. One alcohol drink is the same as the next. And so as much as possible, you want to reduce it, but there's no certain drink that is least harmful, I guess. This is a popular topic as well. They've done extensive research on specifically supplements that can prevent cancer. And through all the studies, there's no research that shows that supplements can be used to prevent cancer. There are certain instances where a supplement can be beneficial if you have any issues where you're not able to eat a lot of vitamins and minerals in your diet. That's something that you might talk about with your doctor. But as far as should I take a vitamin and supplement to prevent cancer? No. And in general, you're able to get all of the vitamins and minerals that you need in a healthy diet. If you're eating a lot of color in your diet, you're eating regularly, you're able to get 100% of your needs. And the last recommendation is to breastfeed if you can. There's definitely research that shows that breastfeeding is protective for the mother and baby. It prevents cancer in the mother, and it promotes healthy growth for the infant. Okay, so now I want to talk about why nutrition is important. What role does this have in cancer treatment and survivorship? So during cancer treatment, your body is hypermetabolic. And so what that means is your metabolism is elevated. So you need more nutrients than you did before. Oftentimes at the time of diagnosis, you may also have experienced a loss of appetite and weight loss. Sometimes that's the first sign that something's going on, is you're losing weight. You might not know why. You also might be eating the same amount that you're usually eating and you're losing weight. And you think, well, I haven't changed anything about my diet. What could the reason be? And it's because your metabolism is elevated and you do have that hypermetabolic effect. So your body needs more nutrients for healing and recovery, especially during the course of treatment. So during the course of treatment, the nutrition goals are going to be to prevent weight loss, regain strength, and rebuild healthy tissues. So achieving these goals means getting enough calories and protein to meet those increased needs. And the research shows that good nutrition results in fewer complications, better outcomes, and treatment tolerance. So now let's talk about what nutrients specifically are important and what to look out for. So protein, in my opinion, is the powerhouse. It's one of the most important nutrients to be mindful of. Its role in the body, it helps repair body tissues and it maintains muscle mass. So typically you'll need additional protein following surgery, chemo, or radiation. And good sources of protein include lean meat, fish, poultry, dairy products, nuts, beans, and soy. So typically at any meal or any snack you're having, you want to have at least one of these, at least one protein source at all of your meals and snacks. Antioxidants, this is also an important thing to note. So I'm sure you've heard to eat the rainbow, incorporate a lot of color in your diet. That's definitely true. So foods that are colorful, those contain antioxidants. And antioxidants are beneficial that they reduce inflammation, prevent DNA damage, and helps with DNA repair, and they reduce the damage to your cells. So they can be very healing. And so examples of those that you might see out there is beta carotene, lycopene, vitamin C, and E. And where do you get these nutrients is in the food that has color. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains. You definitely want to make sure that you eat the rainbow. Okay, so now I want to talk about some of the side effects that happen during cancer treatment and what are some strategies that we can implement to sort of manage this. So some side effects that you may experience can be GI related side effects, nausea, vomiting. You can have difficulty chewing or swallowing. Your appetite can be diminished. You may have experienced mucositis or taste changes. So this is why it can be nutrition it's so important. It can be difficult is because the same time that your body is having that hypermetabolic effect and it's needing more, you're having these challenges and these side effects that really make it difficult to have good nutrition. So let's talk about what are some of the things you can implement to sort of manage these side effects. So specifically for nausea and vomiting, this is one of the most common side effects from treatment, and many people experience it. And so in addition to medical management with your doctor, these are some ways that you can sort of manage your diet. So you want to eat smaller meals instead of large meals. If you get a large meal that's very greasy, that has a strong odor, it can be kind of overwhelming and you might not want to touch it. But if you eat maybe 6 small meals a day, that's usually better managed. You want to try to do dry foods. Cool foods instead of hot are definitely better tolerated. And also sipping on clear liquids. Popsicles can be very beneficial. They can be hydrating, and also that cool taste in your mouth is definitely helpful. And also sucking on sugar-free mints and candies can help prevent nausea. The next is poor appetite, so just not feeling hunger, and that can be one of the hardest ones to manage because you don't want to eat when you just don't have that desire and that want to enjoy a meal. So it's similar to nausea, vomiting. You want to eat a meal or snack every 1 to 2 hours, something small. You're able to get more in that way than having standard 3 meals a day. You want to avoid liquids with meals. You really want to prioritize eating the food first and not getting full on a liquid. And you want to keep high calorie, high protein snacks on hand. And so one of the dish that we're going to make tonight, it's going to be a nutrient dense snack. So that can be an example of something that you can have on the go, easy to grab. You may also experience taste changes. This can be a variety of ways. You can have diminished taste. You can have a metallic taste. You can have taste that just doesn't taste like it should. Sweet foods taste salty, salty foods taste sweet. So depending on which type of taste changing you're having specifically, here are some recommendations that you can implement. If you're having that metallic taste, use plastic utensils instead of the regular utensils that you use at home. That will help with that metallic taste. If you're having diminished taste, you want to add seasons and doing lemon juice, barbecue sauce, things to add flavor to your foods. And the recommendation that I've been recommending lately is something called Miracle Berry. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of it, but I found it to be beneficial in patients that I've recommended it to. You can get it on Amazon, and essentially it's just a fruit tablet that you put on your tongue, and for the next 90 minutes, it enhances your taste buds. And so also it sort of has a sweet taste to it. So definitely if you're experiencing lack of taste and just food is not tasting like it should, I would recommend trying it. And it can just be something that you take right before meals to sort of enhance that flavor. GI distress is definitely a common complication as well. And so I definitely wanted to touch on this. So it can be a side effect of treatment, and it can be very difficult to regulate your bowel movements. You might notice that you sort of have a cycle between diarrhea and constipation. You experience diarrhea, you might take Imodium or some sort of medication to stop it, but then that causes the constipation. And when you're constipated, you might take a laxative and it goes back to the diarrhea. So it can be very hard to have a regular routine. So I definitely want to recommend this. It's called Banatrol. You can get it on Amazon, or you can also go to this, it's called Medtrition website to research it further. It can be effective in reducing symptoms of diarrhea caused by chemo and radiation. And what I like about this is that it doesn't cause constipation. So it helps thicken your stool, but it does not stop gut motility. So it doesn't cause the constipation. And what it is just banana flakes. And so it's soluble fiber, and it really helps to reduce the symptoms of diarrhea. So in addition to this, and typically these little packets, the recommendation is about 2 a day, just if you're curious in trying it. And then for diet, you want to have a moderate amount of fiber. So how we talked about in the beginning, the daily recommendation for fiber is 30 grams. If you're having a lot of GI distress, you want to have a moderate amount. So aim for about 20 to 25 grams of fiber in your diet. So here are some strategies that you can implement at mealtime that will just sort of help maintain that nutritional status, make sure that you're getting enough in, and just enjoy mealtime more, because I know it can be difficult when you have all these side effects going on to enjoy the meals that you're eating. So one thing that may be helpful is to create a routine and have specific scheduled meal times and snacks. I know our lifestyles can change from day to day, and you might be busy, or you might have, doctor's appointments, and next thing you know, it's gone all day in the afternoon and you haven't eaten anything. So it can be helpful to plan ahead, make sure you have scheduled times. And so no matter what's going on, I'm going to have a snack, I'm going to eat a little something at that time. Another recommendation is to listen to your favorite music during meal times. I know for me, music is an instant mood booster. It can just make the mealtime more enjoyable, and have something to look forward to. Eat with others whenever possible, whether it's friends or a family member, just have it be more of a social event, including your favorite foods, something to look forward to, and also trying new foods. Sometimes if you want to try a new food every week, and you can sort of schedule it out that way so that it's just something to be excited about when it comes to nutrition. And additionally, just saving your beverage for the end of the meal so that you don't get full on the liquid and you're really able to optimize what you're eating. So here are some examples of nutrient dense foods. So this is sort of when the goals change. So the goals change during treatment, right? The goal is to just prevent weight loss, to keep your strength, and to stay strong. And so you want to meet those nutrition needs however possible. And so one thing that if you're not able to eat as much as you usually do, and you have poor appetite or you're feeling nauseous, you want to get the most bang for your buck with every bite. So you really want each bite to have the most calories and protein possible. So here are some examples of some snacks that are very nutrient dense: peanut butter and graham crackers, avocado toast, Greek yogurt with granola. You can do tomato soup and grilled cheese. I love that in the fall. A trail mix, an oatmeal or deviled eggs. And if you notice, each one of these has a protein source. So these are just some snacks if you want to just take a screenshot or write it down. For examples, you can have on hand for, okay, I'm going to have just small snacks throughout the day. And these are some examples that you can do. Now I want to talk about this common question. Some of you might have it. This is a popular debated topic. Does sugar feed cancer? I know a lot of times that's the first thing that you might research if you Google, nutrition for cancer. So I just want to educate to provide the knowledge that sugar is carbohydrates, and that is your primary source of energy. So the carbohydrates feed all cells in your body, also your healthy cells. And so that comes from the thought of, if I'm eating sugar, is it feeding my cancer cells? So it can be beneficial to know that your cancer cells are very smart and they want to grow, and they're going to do anything they can to achieve that goal. So even if you cut out all sugar in your diet, they will use fat or they will use protein to grow, to make that sugar. So that's why the research that's been done on this has shown that even removing sugar from your diet completely has not slowed cancer growth. So it's important to let the cancer treatment, let the chemo, radiation focus on your cancer cells, and you focus on nourishing your healthy cells. And that means consuming carbohydrates to have that energy. So that's just sort of my recommendation when it comes to, should I remove all sugar? And also, it can be important to focus on the right kinds of carbs, right? Because there's simple carbs like the sodas, donuts, sweets, desserts, white bread, refined grains, and those you want to limit, and you want to focus on doing complex carbs. So this is anything that's whole wheat, whole grain, fruits and vegetables. These complex carbs are the ones that you want to focus on. So the American Institute of Cancer Research has come out with this new American plate method, and this is something that you can visualize, whether you are cooking at home or you're eating out. This is sort of how you want to build your plate. And through the research that they've done, they've come out with a recommendation to have 2/3 of the plate. If you see here, the veggies, the rice, and the vegetables on the end, 2/3 of your plate needs to be whole grains, fruits, vegetables, or beans, and 1/3 of the plate to be the animal protein. So if you see, the chicken is just 1/3 of the plate, and the rest of the plate is made up of whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. So that's just something that you can sort of try to mimic if you're cooking, to come up with dishes that sort of look like this. Okay, so I just want to end with this quote: "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." It's important to view nutrition as part of your cancer treatment, right? The same schedule that you have for your chemo, the same doctor's appointment schedule that you have, to view nutrition is just as important, and to make a schedule. And every time you eat is an opportunity to nourish your body, and food is the safest, effective form of medicine. Okay, so now we're going to go into our cooking demo. So what we're going to be making tonight is pumpkin protein bites. So this is an example of a nutrient-dense snack. This is something that you can have on hand, that you can take on the go with you. You can grab at home very easily, and it contains a lot of good nutrients. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, it's also no bacon. It's very easy to make. So what you want to do is you want to gather your ingredients, and you're just going to mix it all together in a bowl. I'll see if I can move this down so you can see. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is combine everything just in a bowl like this. So the first ingredient that we have is the almond butter. So I just have a no salt almond butter. If it's your preference, if you want to do peanut butter, almond butter, whatever your preference is, you just want to look for just nothing that has any sugar added or no salt added. It's just the natural butter. Okay, so we have 1 cup of the almond butter already added. And this is a good source of protein as well as healthy fats. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is 1/3 cup of the canned pumpkin. This is what I have here. And I just love pumpkin, and I want it, in every dish this time of year. Pumpkin flavored everything. And this orange color, it gets from beta carotene. So this pumpkin contains an antioxidant like we discussed. So this is an example of something that you can add that'll add color in your diet. Okay, so we're going to do the pumpkin.
Ashlyn, as you are adding that pumpkin, if
Yeah.
somebody either does not enjoy the taste of pumpkin or cannot eat raw pumpkin because of allergy purposes, is there something else that they could do as a supplement or as an alternative ingredient?
So the pumpkin is really just additive. The main ingredients of this is the rolled oats, the protein powder, and the nut butter. So those are the main ingredients. So if there's something else that you want to add that you wanted to add that was the flavor, the pumpkin is not required. The consistency of the balls won't change. So you can add really anything else if you want to add flavor, just making sure you have the core ingredients.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, the next thing that I'm going to add is the rolled oats. So we're going to do 1.5 cups. Okay. These oats are a good source of fiber. They're whole grain, a good source of fiber. And the next thing that we're going to do is the protein powder. So protein powder is really your preference. If you want to do a whey protein powder, a pea protein powder, whatever your preference is on taste as well, the flavor doesn't matter. What matters is the amount of protein. You want to have at least something that has 15 grams of protein, depending on the powder. I just have a vanilla whey powder. Okay.
Ashlyn, when they are looking for protein powders, are there specific brands that you recommend over another?
There's not specific brands. This is a women's wellness protein powder from Trader Joe's that I like to use personally.
Okay, Area from Trader Joe's.
Yeah, I like
Thank
this.
you.
Okay. And the next thing we're going to do is the honey. I'll open this up to make it easier. Okay. Can get a little sticky. Okay, now let's add our spices in. Okay, so we're going to do a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon.
Ashlyn, as you're continuing to add those ingredients, can you share, is there anything to substitute the almond butter with if you can't have any type of nut butters?
That's a good question. If you can't have any type of nut butters, I might let me do some research and get back to you. That's a good question. If you can't have any at all.
Thank you.
I'm sure there's an alternative. I'll just have to think of it. Okay.
One of the other guests actually recommended sunflower seed butter. Could that be something that could be used?
Yeah. If it's the same consistency, absolutely. That's a great idea.
Thank you for that suggestion, Beverly.
Okay, then I'll add the pumpkin pie spice. Okay, are missing anything? And with just a little bit of salt. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do is mix all the ingredients together. All right, so you want to mix thoroughly, and then we're going to add the chocolate chips.
She'd love that.
Okay. So you just want to do it till everything is thoroughly mixed together. Okay, now let's add the chocolate chips. So you're going to do about a half a cup of the chocolate chips. Oh, they're sticking to my honey. Okay. You can actually add as many chocolate chips as you want. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to do once you've mixed everything together is you're going to roll it into little balls. So you can use a little cookie scoop if you want, a tablespoon scoop, or you can just grab it. Move this over here. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little tablespoon scoop of the mixture and take it and put it in my hands like this. Might just be a little sticky. And then you're going to roll it into a ball. Roll it into a little ball size like this, and you're going to put it on a plate. And this makes about 20. So once you roll them all up and put the 20 balls, you're just going to stick them in the fridge, and you're going to leave them for about 1 or 2 hours until they're hard. So they're very sticky right now. So you want to put them in the fridge and leave them till it's hardened, and then it won't have that sticky texture anymore. And then they're ready to eat. You can put them in baggies, you can take them with you. And each one of these is about 160 calories and 70 grams of protein, or 7 grams of protein. So if you have 2 or 3, that's definitely a really good nutrient dense source.
Ashlyn, how long can they stay in the refrigerator? Is this something that you could keep in the fridge for a week, or can you freeze them and then take them out?
Freeze them. Yeah, that's a good question. So you can freeze them, and that's a great way to sort of make a batch and eat now later and save some for the future. You can freeze them.
Okay, this is a great recipe that you could also, simple, easy to do,
Yeah.
easy ingredients, and also something that you could do with members of your family if you'd like.
Yes.
Thank you. That was absolutely wonderful. So, okay, now we are going to go into the question part. So I would like to ask all of you to put your questions in the chat. And I know that some have already texted me. So I am going to ask you, the first question is about the M-berry that you had shown.
Mhm.
Can you please share with us, are there any known side effects to using M-berry?
Great question. So it's called, the M stands for miracle, just for reference, it's called miracle berry if you want to research it. And as far as I know, there are no side effects. I know it's recommended by the doctors that I work with. And as far as I know, there's no side effects that that I have experienced or had patients experience, but definitely you can do further research and you can always clear things with your doctor. So if you want to talk to your doctor about it before trying it, that's absolutely recommended.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the next question that we received from Pam is, can you share the difference between a prebiotic and a probiotic? And should we take one or both?
That's a really good question. So a prebiotic, there's a lot of research on it and there's a lot that's unknown. I'll just start by saying that. So specifically the Banatrol, let me go back to the slide real quick. Go back here. So Banatrol specifically is a prebiotic. And so it really just depends. They all have different benefits for gut health. It really depends. Some contain live organisms and some is like a fermented food that promotes the growth of live organisms. So that's pretty much the research that's been done so far. And I would recommend to, ask your doctor also about starting this. Yeah.
Okay. So the difference between the pre and the pro, like for example, also if somebody typically before they had their cancer treatment and they used to take a probiotic before they needed to take an antibiotic, if they say developed let's say a sinus infection while they're going through treatment and need to be put on an antibiotic, is that something that they could still take a probiotic, or is that something again that they should ask their doctor about?
Definitely ask, especially if you're taking other medications, definitely ask, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Can you also share with us one question that came in from Barbara was, why don't medical professionals recommend vegetarian or plant-based food plans more for cancer patients?
Why don't they recommend plant-based foods more?
More, or vegetarian diets more for cancer patients? Should that be something that cancer patients look to more?
So definitely following a primarily plant-based diet is recommended. And sort of that having 2/3 of your plate, so have 2/3 of your diet essentially be primarily plant-based is what the research says. Sometimes it's not recommended to follow a strictly vegetarian or vegan diet just because it can sometimes be difficult to meet the protein needs. So that could be a reason why the provider is not recommending to follow a primarily vegetarian diet, because you have to eat more amount of plant protein to get the same effect as a complete amino acid through animal protein.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, I'm just reading Joy's question. Okay, so Joy has asked that she's been told that sushi and raw clams and oysters are not recommended during treatment. How soon after treatment would these items be safe to eat? That's for those fish lovers out there.
Yeah, that's a good question. Typically, whenever your doctor says it's okay, as far as I know, it depends on some one thing that can just be, it could just be a raw and a risk of what am I trying to say? Typically, it's safe to eat as long as you're not experiencing any type of infection and your immune system is okay. But if you're going to wait until after treatment to eat it, I would clear it with your doctor.
Okay. Another great question that we have from Mary this evening is, when reading food labels, besides chemical additives, what other ingredients that should be avoided? So when reading food labels, besides chemical additives, what other ingredients that should be avoided? For example, gums, sugar, alcohols, bad fats?
Or what should be avoided?
Yes.
I
guess when somebody's looking at a label, if they're looking to look at the chemical additives, are there other ingredients in items that they should look to make sure that they try to avoid those types of foods?
As far as ingredients goes, if anything just has a lot of things that are added, preservatives, you want to avoid those in general, and you want to avoid anything that has a lot of saturated fat and trans fat specifically.
Okay. Okay, I will tell you that somebody, thank you very much for asking about the plant-based and that she's been following that since 2018, has been able to maintain her protein level. So that's a great thing. Okay, so another question that was sent to me prior is, the question is about, can you explain the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist for everybody?
Yes, definitely. Those can kind of look like the same from the outside, but they're definitely different and they have a different level of expertise and education. So essentially, a registered dietitian has to have a bachelor's degree as well as a master's degree and completed what's called a dietetic internship and passed the RD exam through the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So there's a lot of education that goes into it before you can have that title as a dietitian. For the nutritionist, there's no standard requirements to have that title. So to be honest, essentially anyone can call themselves a nutritionist. You can do, a 1-week course that you on the internet and you can still have that title, or you can just claim, nutritionist, really just in general. So it's good to look for the dietitian title as someone who has had that education and experience.
So when somebody is seeking out a dietitian, what do they search for? Like, what are the credentials that they're looking for?
That's really good. So you can look for the title RD, registered dietitian. And you can also look for someone who's an oncology specialist. So if you were looking for like letters behind the name, you can search oncology dietitian and they'll have something called CSO. And that stands for Certified Specialist in Oncology Nutrition. So that is someone who's specifically specialized in nutrition for cancer treatment. So that can be good to look for as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I am going to put that information in the chat, but can you also please explain the benefit of turmeric?
The benefit of turmeric?
Yes.
So as far as I know, it has some anti-inflammatory properties. And so that can be the benefit of it. It's not like a, end all be all, something that's very curative, but it does have anti-inflammatory properties.
Okay. And with that, is there a specific way that somebody should take turmeric? I know that there's either a powder or sometimes it comes as a pill form. Is there a difference?
Typically, it's if you have no issues with absorption, then it can just be in your diet, completely fine.
Okay. Can you also recommend, Ashlyn, a supplemental protein shake?
Definitely. So there's a lot of different brands out there. It really depends on which taste preference you have. Ensure, I know, is a popular one, but some people don't like it. Boost is another protein shake that you can do. I like one that's called Premier Protein. It has about 30 grams of protein per bottle, so I like that one. It really just depends on what your preference is, but those are some name recommendations that you can look for.
Okay, wonderful. So what are other anti-inflammatories? I guess supplements maybe that somebody could use? Is that a question that they should ask their doctor?
So antioxidants are anti-inflammatory. So having all that color, the things, the beta carotene, vitamin C and E, all of those have anti-inflammatory properties. So making sure you have a lot of fruits and vegetables in your diet and color will definitely help.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, and another question that I want to ask you that was actually sent to me is, when you talked about the Ensure, the Boost, the Premier Protein, if you are having a very hard time with eating and you are basically turning to these as your dietary source for nutrient intake, how many of these can you have in a given day?
What's the max amount?
Yes.
So it's really, there's no set max amount other than what you're able to tolerate, what's not going to cause like GI distress. So as many as you're able to have, if that's the only thing that you enjoy eating, it has plenty of calories, protein, and it also has vitamins and minerals. So there's nothing wrong with having as many as you want, as long as you're not, making yourself uncomfortable.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Based upon the available research, should coffee intake be limited?
So as of right now, there's no specific recommendations for limiting coffee or caffeine when it comes to cancer prevention that I know of.
Okay. And is there a difference between if somebody drinks caffeine or decaf?
No, as far as I
Nope.
know, no difference.
Okay.
Yeah, caffeine obviously stimulates your bowel. So if you're having any type of GI distress, you might want to avoid caffeine. But as far as whether one's recommended or the other, no.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, so I apologize, Ashlyn. The question is, carrageenan is banned in the EU. Do you know why it's okay in the US, or what is the recommendation?
I don't know. If you send
Okay.
it to me, I can research further and answer that, but off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Another question actually has to do with chronic diarrhea. If somebody is suffering from chronic diarrhea after they've actually had either an ileostomy or an ileostomy or colostomy bag reversed, do you have any recommendations for a situation like that?
Definitely. So starting off, whether you've just had it reversed or whether you have just had it placed, when you have that surgery, you definitely want to start off slow and follow more of a low fiber diet. So you want to have time for your colon to heal and recover. So you don't want to give it anything. Fiber just takes more work to digest. So especially if you're experiencing diarrhea, you want to follow a lower fiber diet. So how we talked about moderate fiber is about 20 to 25 grams. I would do definitely less than that and limit the fiber containing foods and see if that helps with your diarrhea. And then over time, slowly add that fiber back in, but you want to start very limited.
Thank you. Another question that was sent to me prior has to do with water. People having difficulty drinking a lot of water throughout a given day. What beverages would you recommend for somebody to drink to prevent dehydration? They're doing the ice pops as well, but they're having a very hard time doing traditional volumes of water.
That's completely a good question, and it's common to figure out how can you maintain your hydration status. So if they don't just enjoy water, doing flavored water, doing sort of the like carbonated beverages that are just just like the club soda flavored water, and then also keeping a water bottle on hand and often taking it to wherever you go. So if you're going to a doctor's appointment, if you're leaving the house, having just something you can take with you to drink on the way, that can definitely be helpful as well. Eating fruits that have water in them, they can be doing watermelon, lemon, melons, those types of things. Those can be hydrating as well, but I know it can be difficult.
And for those that are on the call tonight, Ashlyn, what is the suggested recommendation of how much water somebody actually should take in?
That's a good question. It really depends on the individual person and their estimated needs. It actually varies from person to person. So that's why the recommendation is sort of generalized, but it definitely varies from person to person. And also you have increased hydration needs with a lot of chemos actually. And so sometimes you might notice that they might give you fluids before and after your treatment. It's because you definitely need additional hydration. So I think that the recommendation just baseline for somebody is, the 8 cups a day typically, but I think specifically for cancer treatment, I would recommend more than that.
Thank you very much for sharing that important information. Okay. And when you're talking about the 6 small meals a day, if somebody is unable to maintain that, I just got this question texted to me. If that's even a struggle, what is realistic to try to do? Is it 3 meals and try to make sure that you stay hydrated? Like, what's the most important thing?
The most important thing, that's a good question. So if you're having a hard time, the most important thing is to eat the protein source first. So say you have a meal like the plate we looked at that has the chicken, the rice, and the veggies. And it's just overwhelming. You know, you can only eat about half of it. What do you start with? Start with the chicken. So no matter what you're eating, start with the protein first and see how much you can manage with that before you do anything else. And then it's exactly, if 6 meals is too overwhelming and all you're able to do is 3 small meals, try to make them a nutrient dense meal. You can add, there's tons of different strategies that you can add calories to your small meals just so that you get the most from eating the least amount, essentially.
Okay, thank you. And the next question that I actually see in the chat is, can Metamucil bulk lose stools, and how much should you take?
That's a good question. So that's also something that can be beneficial. And I know that's something that I recommend as well sometimes, is to do Metamucil. The amount that you take, you should double check just with your doctor based off of your specific circumstance. But Metamucil is also something that can be beneficial.
Okay, and are the Metamucil gummies equivalent to the powder?
I'll have to research that specifically. Sometimes gummies are not absorbed this as well as a powder or a pill form just in general. So I'm not sure specifically if the gummies are the same as the powder. I would probably recommend the powder.
You probably recommend the powder.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Another question that was sent to me is, after I completed chemotherapy, this individual's taste buds have changed greatly, and they can no longer tolerate dairy. They don't drink milk anymore. They don't like yogurt anymore. How do they make sure that they can maintain some type of nutrient-rich diet with not taking in dairy, especially because bone health is of great concern?
That's a really good question. This might be an instance where it would be beneficial to speak with a dietitian to sort of go through your diet recall to see, are you taking in any other sources of calcium, and vitamin D in your diet? And if not, talk to your doctor about a supplement.
Okay. Okay. The question that just came in is, somebody takes Miralax daily, but have also just begun adding chlorophyll to my water. Is there anything else recommended for continued difficulty moving your bowels?
Moving your bowels. Number one is hydration.
Okay.
Staying hydrated and having that soluble fiber in your diet. So eating, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. That's really having the soluble fiber in your diet is going to help stimulate your bowels as well.
And Ashlyn, can you give the audience tonight an example, at least 3 examples of whole grains? When we say whole grains, what does that actually mean?
Whole grain. So that is anything that looks brown in color. So if you're looking at bread, the bread that has like the seeds on the end, whole wheat, whole grain, those are titles to look for when it comes to bread. When it comes to rice, brown rice is whole grain. So you want to do brown rice instead of white rice. And then you can have whole wheat pasta. You can have whole wheat tortillas, any sort of grain that is the darker color, that's going to be a whole grain.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, does anybody have, I think I've covered all of the questions. There has been a lot. So if I've missed anything, I deeply apologize. But does anybody have any further questions? Please put it in the chat at this moment. Okay. I think we have answered everything. Well, I want to say to you, Ashlyn, you have been a wonderful guest speaker. You were extremely engaging, and thank you very much for answering everybody's questions and joining us tonight. And on behalf of the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition, we really appreciate your time and your dedication to those that you serve and being able to then share your knowledge with all of us. So I thank you. I thank everybody that took the time out of their evenings to join us to learn a great deal of information. Hopefully you gained some knowledge that will help you ask your doctors important, valuable questions that will help you throughout your continuum of care and also help you manage the side effects from your treatments. This educational program, we are very grateful to our community partners, Merck, as well as, of course, Northwell Health for enabling us to provide these types of educational programs. So I want to say, I hope you all go home and try to make Ashland's dessert because I think that that is a great thing. It could be a great thing to add to your Thanksgiving table as something healthy when everybody is sitting there having dessert. Ashlyn, I will ask you one quick question about Thanksgiving meal. So we're all going to be sitting down to have a very big meal, and there's going to be lots of pressure on some of these lovely guests tonight to eat a lot of food. What is the best way to curtail that while you're sitting there, and what out of all the traditional items that somebody is going to be putting in front of them for the Thanksgiving meal, what is probably the most easily digestible, from the turkey to the mashed potatoes to the stuffing to all of those items? What would you recommend?
Probably definitely the turkey is what I recommend, because it's the source of protein, and it's as long as it doesn't have any gravies or anything like that, it's super bland. It's going to be easy to digest, and it's not going to cause any issues. But then I also encourage you to just have your favorite food, really enjoy that time, and yeah, try to have something that you enjoy with your family.
Well, thank you for that final great tip, and we wish all of you a happy and a healthy Thanksgiving. We hope that you are surrounded by your loved ones.